Hello, everyone. We are live on Facebook. This is Zen Honeycutt of Moms Across America, and we are here today on our Moms Connect call that we have on Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time with moms all across the country, sometimes around the world. And our mission at Moms Across America is to educate and empower mothers and others with actions and solutions to create healthy communities. And today we have a special guest, Meagan from GMO Free USA. GMO Free Florida. But I'm sure it works with GMO Free USA. GMO Free Florida. She lives in Key West, and she's been working on fighting GMO mosquitoes for 10 years, folks. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad to have an expert in this area speak to us on this topic. We will be also going over some updates and some actions at the around 8:30, in about 30 minutes from this call. So we're going to have the first half hour be dedicated to GMO mosquitoes. So if you know anyone that's, in an area near you or across the country that's concerned about GMO mosquitoes that could be released in your area, please share this video with them. And we can also answer questions if you put them in the comment box below on Facebook. So thank you, Meagan, for being with us here tonight. I appreciate you coming very much. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's really an honor to be here, Zen. You're a personal inspiration to me. So thank you.
Thank you so much
for tuning in too.
Thank you. And I want to thank Carol and Anne and all the other people, Max and Sherry and Les that are on the call tonight. Thank you for tuning in with us on Facebook all across the country. We appreciate you being here. If you have any questions, you can either raise your hand or put it in the chat box or unmute or put it in Facebook as well. So we would love to have you interact with us. So Meagan, please first you've been working on this for 10 years. Can you please just give us a brief background on how you found out about GMO mosquitoes and what got you concerned about this? What got you started?
Hey, well, I was taking a college course. I was working at the local college, and I was taking a course at night, environmental biology, the instructor invited us, a representative from Florida Keys Mosquito Control, to come and speak to our class about this new technology that was being considered by Florida Keys Mosquito Control. And I was taking organic chemistry classes. I was taking physics, microbiology, anatomy, physiology classes at the time. I was deep in the science end, and I was very interested in this topic because I was so against GMOs for so long. And I thought, is this finally a GMO product that I could get behind? Nobody likes mosquitoes, right? It sounds too good to be true. Sterile mosquitoes, sterile male mosquitoes. I mean, that sounds fantastic. But it's actually, there's a lot more to it than that. And when I started asking questions, the representative in the classroom could not answer my questions, and then did not follow up and send me more information or links about it. And then I started to do my own research, and then I just had more questions, and there were no answers to those questions. And so we began to organize locally.
Well, I appreciate that it started with questions. That's what, for most of us around GMOs or glyphosate or, any other EMFs, 5G, any of those issues, it started with a question: is this safe? And I think that's something that most manufacturers overlook, they disregard. In fact, I read a book called Bold. Last name, I forgot the first name of the gentleman, but the last name was Diamond. And in it, he said there's a major corporation, I don't know which one, but it was like a Google-sized corporation, right? Very large corporation, where the CEO would constantly come into the board meetings with jeans and a t-shirt on, and the t-shirt would say "safety last." And that's the mentality that so many, innovative corporations take on is, what, we're just going to innovate. We don't care about safety. So what happened then? And where are we at now with GMO mosquitoes? What's going on right now?
Okay, well, like I said, we started to organize. Basically, it
Mhm.
started with one conversation and then another conversation. And some people weren't very interested, and some people were more interested than in others. One person who was very interested is the late Mila Demir, a personal dear friend of mine, who was very active on this issue. Um, so over the years, we've done so many different things, and I'm a member of so many organizations that it just started to grow, and more people started to ask questions, the same questions, and we still weren't getting the answers. So it went to we forced a referendum, where the community resoundingly defeated it in the trial area, Key Haven. So those who were the most educated on the subject defeated it resoundingly. And yet our mosquito control opened it up to the entire county. And then, then there was a window where they could say, oh, look, a few more people are interested in this technology, so we could maybe try it in a different location. To this day, we still do not know specifically where those locations are. We have a vague idea of, and in the Keys, we call our mile markers, because there's one road into the Keys and one road out of the Keys. And so mile marker 10 to mile marker 93 is the test area, right? So we don't know exactly where those test areas are, and we will not know after the trial either. So that's concerning as well. That's kind of where we're at with the trial areas, and this release is scheduled for sometime in April. So that's just very very urgently a problem for us. We have no way to opt out of this experiment. We have no way to say that we don't want to be part of it. They're basically bullying us into it. They're forcing it on our community, and it's not good. It really is kind of symptomatic of how things are going in a lot of places, around the country. It's really sad that the people we've lost our voice and our ability to fight back against these big corporations. The EPA was lobbied by a corporate lobbyist by the name of Roy Bailey on behalf of Oxitec, and we have those emails as well. So it's all very well documented that the regulatory framework was very flawed. The science is junk science. It's not effective. It wasn't effective in the Caymans. It wasn't effective in Brazil. It wasn't effective in India. We don't want it. We don't need it. We don't have dengue right now. There's no urgency to pressuring us into this experiment. We've successfully declined this experiment for 10 years. And so why now? Why are they doing this to us now? We don't need this. Our neighbors to the north in Miami-Dade County are utilizing Wolbachia technology with measurable documented success. Our neighbors to the northwest in Lee County, which would be Fort Myers, Naples, Sanibel Island, they're utilizing irradiated insect technology with measurable documented success. Our community stands firmly behind those technologies because there's sound science to support the success of those technologies, whereas the science is not on the side of Oxitec and the genetically modified mosquito. So therefore, we cannot be supportive of that technology. No safety testing has been done. No environmental assessment, no EIS tests have been done. No independent peer review studies. Everything has been contributed by Oxitec collaborators. And that is the exact term that they use, is collaborators. That's not independent science. So there are a lot of problems with this.
Can you get specific about what some of the problems are? What do you say? You say there's that's junk science, it's not safe, hasn't been proven safe. What are some of the particular concerns that you have about GMO mosquitoes and their release?
Okay, let's start with the concern of over 30 local physicians who signed on to a letter stating that they have concerns about this technology due to the fact that these mosquitoes are reared in tetracycline. The reason that this is a concern is because these mosquitoes could contribute to antibiotic resistance. So if you live in an area of a warm climate, for example, where bacterial infections thrive, such as MRSA, staph, okay, so anywhere really. I mean, I think all physicians can agree that antibiotic resistance has been a concern for a very long time and continues to be so. And so we'll start with the physicians' concerns. Over 30 local physicians signed onto a letter stating that this is a very real concern of theirs. As for environmentalists, there have been no environmental impact studies. There have been no third-party peer-reviewed science of the actual impacts of this technology, this patented life form. It's an artificially modified subspecies of an invasive species. So you have Aedes aegypti mosquito, which is an invasive species, and then you artificially modify it with a piggyback transposon gene and a lethal gene that has a fluorescent marker. So they're looking for this in subsequent generations. These genes can be passed on for a minimum of 10 successive generations. So how does a sterile mosquito breed, you might ask? Because that's one of the questions that we asked. Well, some females are inevitably released. The sexing process is not 100% accurate nor effective. So these things will be, and also the next generation will be some males and some females, and then they will breed. So then you're creating these hybridized mosquitoes. And if you've studied a little bit of science and you understand a little bit of how this works, when you have hybrids, generally those are stronger stronger subspecies. Basically, they're more virulent. They're stronger. Whenever you start to interbreed, generally that creates a stronger mosquito. So the fact that these mosquitoes, subsequent generations, could be harder to kill, the fact that the spraying will continue, the chemical spraying will continue, the spraying will continue during the trial and after the trial. There's just so much. I lost track for a moment. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So one of my concerns is that birds will eat these GM mosquitoes. And so, I mean, but just because they're eating them doesn't mean that that's bad. I'm concerned about the potential for mutation or just like the unknown factors of what these GM mosquitoes could do to birds. And then of course, it's not just the birds, then there's the snakes and the fox or the other, four-legged creatures that might eat the birds. And then there's the whole food chain. So what type of concerns do you have about that? What are scientists saying about that type of, multi-species level impact to the entire ecosystem?
Well, I agree with you, Zen. Dragonflies eat mosquitoes. There's a variety of marine life that eat mosquito. We live in an ecologically sensitive area, the beautiful Florida Keys. We have multiple marine sanctuaries and also bird sanctuaries. We have a diverse array of amphibians, and certainly no environmental impact studies have been conducted. There's no protection for the endangered species with this experiment. It's really, it's very concerning. Absolutely.
Now, a lot of people, when they criticize Moms Across America or other groups that are opposed to certain new advances, in technology and progress, say that we're anti-science. But what I'm hearing from you is that you're simply pointing out that there have not been impact studies done on this new technology, these GM mosquitoes. So you're actually calling for more science. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's exactly right. Thank you.
Great. So, and can you tell us, I'm sorry, I didn't give you enough time to talk about your background. We just sort of dove right into how did you find out about this? Did you end up getting a degree in this? And you said you were taking environmental classes. Are there people on your team that are scientists? Can you give us a little bit more background on yourself and your team that's looking into this?
Absolutely. I was originally going, this is kind of a long story, so I'll try and boil it down.
Okay.
But I was going to go to school for pharmacy because I worked at a health food store, and the owner of the store was formerly a pharmacist, and she went into ownership of a health food store because she was concerned about some of the harmful impacts of pharmaceuticals. And I thought that's really, and it gave her a great sense of credibility and a great, people really respected what she had to say because she had those credentials. So I said, I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to, work in pharmacy for maybe 5 years and then go into water quality advocacy because people are flushing their pills down the toilet and the municipalities aren't testing for this. The water testing standards are 50, 60 years behind what's actually in the water. Are you testing for radioactive substances? Are you testing for pharmaceuticals in the water? And that was my goal. And then after I did the advocacy thing for a while and did what I could to improve the quality of life for communities and the planet, then I was going to go retire in Costa Rica making turmeric supplements. That didn't work out. I went into social work. I married my husband and went into social work instead, but I loved my science classes. And unfortunately, what Oxitec has given us is junk science. Like I said, the studies just are not there. And when you ask them things like, okay, so who's the medical entomologist for Oxitec? Who's the virologist for Oxitec? What is possible in terms of these subspecies of virulent mosquitoes causing the evolution of the very viruses that we're trying to eradicate? So basically, you could really stir the petri dish quite a bit with this. When you have all these different types of mosquitoes, and then you have these viruses which naturally evolve, and then you have these subspecies of invasive species now carrying the different viruses. How does that work? This is exponential, and it's the first experiment of its kind in the United States. So this is Oxitec's foothold into the American market. This is a multi-billion-dollar product for them because it gets them a foothold into the United States market, where previously they've been unknown virtually, with the exception of the brown-tailed moth in upstate New York, which another experimental trial, which was canceled. So they haven't really been very successful. They're losing a lot of money right now because of the class action suit against Intrexon and the methane product. And so across the board, Intrexon stock is going down. So the owner who owns Intrexon and Oxitec is losing a lot of money right now. And
so
that's
you said gets them into the market. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but so does this mean that this is sort of like a Trojan horse thing where they get in sort of like the GMO oak tree, the GMO chestnut tree is, they want to get that into the market as a sort of environmental issue. And then afterwards they'll get the lumber trees in. So it's, you know what I mean? They're trying to get the approval, get it into the market. And then afterwards, all these other products will follow that are the real money makers. It's like a lost leader, right? In the grocery store. Are you saying that they get the mosquitoes in and then they have all kinds of other GM things that they want to get onto the market? What do you mean by that?
Absolutely. You're exactly spot on correct with that. Randall J. Kirk is also the person behind the GM apple. He's also behind the GMO salmon, which was recently defeated in the Supreme Court thanks to Center for Food Safety. They're one of our partners in this Stop GMM coalition, as well as Friends of the Earth. So we have a lot of really strong partners: GMO Free USA, GMO Free Florida. In 2016, we started a political action committee called Citizens for Safe Science. We pushed for a referendum, which is now outdated because that was a different technology. However, Florida Keys Mosquito Control is still basing their decisions on this outdated technology referendum from 2016. So it's just it's complicated, but there's a lot that people can do still in this short time frame, and I want to make sure that we have time to discuss some of the action items that we can still do.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, please lead the way with that. Yes. What do you?
I don't want to run short on time, and I don't want to overstay my welcome. I don't know
how okay.
That everybody is about mosquitoes.
Go ahead, please go ahead with this. And if anybody has any questions, please let us know.
So the first thing that I would recommend, and you've already done this, is go to visit the website, stopgmm.com. There's an interactive map on this website, and everyone is adding themselves to the map, putting themselves on the map. And you can see we already have a really strong opposition. Visually, it's just very striking how many people are against this technology. And the thing is mosquitoes travel. True, Aedes aegypti have a certain habitat in the warmer climates. But again, like Zen mentioned earlier, there are many, many patented life forms in the pipeline. So this mosquito is just one of many. They also have the Anopheles mosquito, the Asian tiger mosquito in the pipeline. They have a product of that. And so it's very concerning because, again, these things can travel. They can hop in your car, hop in your boat, you know, in your vehicle. And then the next thing you know, this is in Orlando. This mosquito is in Orlando. So, you know, or Fort Lauderdale or Tallahassee or Tampa. So even if your community has already said no, you're not safe from this mosquito because they fly, and buffer zones just basically don't exist. Buffer zones are a joke expression because nature always finds a way.
Do they seriously try to say that there's buffer zones for releasing an insect?
In their EUP, their experimental use permit application, they state exactly how far they believe the mosquito can fly. And again, you know, these things can get into a bus or a taxi or a boat or, you know, an airplane. And the next thing you know, oh, look, we found these showing up other places.
Yeah, and it's not just the mosquito, the birds eat the mosquito. And we know birds travel from multiple countries. I mean,
migratory, yes.
Yeah, they're migratory. So they're going down to South America, they're going to Florida, they're going up to Maine. I mean, they can't seriously expect for this to be contained.
Exactly. So as far as the website, the stopgmm.com, again, this is a much broader coalition than just the Florida Keys. This is people who are concerned world over about this technology and the fact that it's just being so irresponsibly regulated and irresponsibly tested. The public is not in favor of it. The community is not in favor of it, and they're going ahead and doing it anyway. And that there's no justice in that. There's no social justice in that. So please do contact Nikki Fried's office, the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services.
Okay, that's on the Take Action page here.
I believe so. Yes, Nikki Fried, Andrea Leo, both of their photos there. Please do call and email.
So even if you're not a Florida resident, you can do this.
Absolutely, because they need to understand that this is a much broader issue than just a couple of little islands in the Florida Keys. This is a huge, huge issue. It's going to affect a lot of people because basically you're going to just be able to buy a box of mosquitoes and put it in your yard. And people aren't going to know. I mean, pregnant women aren't going to know that they're part of an experiment and that these mosquitoes could be biting them with their DNA-laden saliva and we don't know the consequences. We don't know the risks and the consequences because nobody's really looking at that.
Right. Okay. All right. So you want us to sign this petition. What else?
Absolutely. When you go to this website, stopgmm.com, you can request a sign or a sticker and take a photo of it and put it on the interactive map. Contact the EPA, the pesticide division, because this is being regulated as a pesticide instead of a patented life form.
There's always a loophole, isn't there? There's always some sort of way that they're getting around regulation.
It's criminal. It's criminal. Yeah. So send a letter of support to Congressman Carlos Jimenez. We've initiated another congressional inquiry to the EPA for their flawed process in approving this experimental use permit through undue pressure from the lobbyist Roy Bailey and other lobbyists who are also documented. So send a letter of support to Congressman Jimenez because he's sending a formal inquiry to the EPA on our behalf. And also share on social media, keep the dialogue going, keep the conversation going, because the more people learn, the more questions generally that we have. That's the beautiful thing about science, is that you can go and research as much as you want to, and there's always going to be more. There will always be more questions, and that's the beautiful thing about science. It's never boring because there are always more questions.
Absolutely. All right. Yeah, I can see in here that there's a whole report on here, genetically engineered mosquitoes, and it's created by Friends of the Earth. Great people. We love that organization. And excellent in organizing as well, with volunteers all across the country. So
Meagan, can I ask a quick question? Is there anything in here that's comparing this to the spread of like Lyme disease or anything? Because that's what really scares people, and that could get their attention.
Well, that's a different insect. The tick, the tick is what.
Oh, you're right. Okay,
disease. Yeah, and it's a different climate as well. So you won't have Aedes aegypti mosquito in northern climates, but certainly there is a lot of engineered insect technology happening, and they're going to be looking at the insect that the mosquito vector that carries West Nile virus, equine encephalitis. There's a lot to profit ties on vector control for sure. So as far as Lyme disease, I would absolutely be watching for a new biotechnology product in that regard. Absolutely. Be on the lookout.
Yeah, for sure. Anything to make money. I mean, not that we wouldn't want some kind of solution, but anything to make money, right, out of that. So is there a concern that I heard in one of the reports that because the mosquitoes didn't just die off because there's male and females, that they're strengthening their ability to resist any type of GM aspects about it, and then they just become stronger and they're able to contribute to spreading a disease even faster? Is that something? Did I see that about GM mosquitoes? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. I think I might have mentioned that a little bit earlier. And I was speaking about how the hybridized mosquitoes are more virulent, more robust.
Okay, yes.
And when you hybridize any species, you're going to get a stronger product. So yeah, they'll be harder to kill. It'll take more spraying. This is an experiment that's paid for by Oxitec. And I don't know if you've heard the expression, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Well, the actual cost of this product is one of the reasons why, along with health and safety and environmental concerns, is one of the reasons why it was stopped in the Caymans, is because it turned out it was going to be a super expensive product to purchase for the community in an ongoing basis, because you have to keep releasing these and releasing them and releasing them. You don't just stop. So, you know, it becomes, there have been no cost comparison studies for our community. It's just that that's so wrong. It's just so wrong on so many levels.
So what can people do if they want to get ahead of the game and sort of stop this from coming into their area? What do they do? Who do they talk to?
Well, we've had some very good dialogues with city commissioners in Key West, in the city of Key West. In fact, a resolution was passed through the initiative of us citizens. For example, I'm a co-founder of a group called the Florida Keys Environmental Coalition. We were started in 2010 as a result of the BP Deepwater Horizon disaster. And we had 500 volunteers trained in hazmat training in case we had oiled wildlife and tar balls washing up on our shores. So that's kind of my origins for advocacy in the community for the environment. And I'm sorry, I lost track again. 10 years of history, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
But that group, Florida Keys Environmental Coalition, I'm sorry, sponsored or worked with the City Commission in Key West to get a resolution passed in 2012. And because the criteria that we requested be met was never met by Oxitec, that resolution still stands in the city of Key West. And the mosquitoes cannot be released in within Key West city proper, because this resolution exists from 2012 and 8 years have passed, 9 years have passed, and Oxitec has still never met the criteria for the resolution. So
it's absolutely ridiculous that they could be so irresponsible as to allow technology released into the public without the proper regulation and without, inspection of the impact. It's completely irresponsible. We have a question from one of our members. Does the Department of Interior have jurisdiction over these kinds of actions?
That's a very good question. Our work so far to date has been through local government, elected officials, the state level, Department of Agriculture Service. In Florida, the regulatory framework is such that the Department of Agriculture has jurisdiction over the Florida Keys mosquito control. And, not every community has an elected, bipartisan elected board of just one insect mosquito control. It's very strange. It's very strange. So Department of the Interior, that's a good question. I can't answer that. I know that the EPA has been given the authority to approve the technology. But again, that process was extremely flawed. During the public comments period from the EPA, over 31,000 comments were against this technology, opposed to it, and a mere 56 comments were in favor of the technology. The EPA clearly did not take this into account, any of this public input. And furthermore, during the public comment period, a 2-page document, a very limited piece of information was posted to the EPA.gov website. We watched and waited carefully for any information about a decision from the EPA, and 6 months later, the approval was announced simultaneously as several more documents were uploaded to and posted to the EPA.gov site on this docket item. So Department of Interior, again, that's not my wheelhouse. I'm not really sure about that. I just know right now what's been going on with
the EPA.
The U.S. Department of Agriculture was originally consulted, and it was a hot potato. They said no jurisdiction, sent a letter of no jurisdiction to mosquito control, and then they passed the buck to FDA. FDA tried to regulate it as a veterinary animal drug.
What?
Yeah, no, I'm not kidding. A veterinary animal drug. And so then, because, there was so much public outcry on that. They again cited no jurisdiction. And so then it was bounced over to the EPA. And the EPA is trying to regulate it as a pesticide. So this patented life form is suddenly a pesticide. And there's just no biotechnology regulatory framework in this country that is able to even consider these new technologies that are coming out and rapidly evolving.
I have to ask you, I mean, do the shenanigans like this make you want to actually like be an employee of the EPA and turn things around or run for office? Or like, I mean, this must just make you so mad that things are being handled this poorly. Do you see progress in being an activist, or do you feel like there's another avenue that you need to take or that somebody needs to take? What needs to happen here?
That's an interesting question, Zen. I will carefully consider my response. I'm not interested in public office. I'm not interested in becoming famous. It took a lot to get me on this on this call today. So really, I feel empowered when we're stronger together. So my sense of togetherness comes from a grassroots level. I feel we have a strong voice when we as citizens engage together and join together. So for example, my work with the Florida Keys Environmental Coalition, my work with the GMO Free Florida, GMO Free USA, Friends of the Earth, the PAC that we formed 3 months before the referendum, and that the Citizens for Safe Science, Center for Food Safety, working, coordinating with JD Hansen at Center for Food Safety in Washington, D.C., Diana Reeves in Connecticut, it's just, and then also the international connections, Helen Wallace of GeneWatch UK. And, there are people world over who are interested in this in Spain, the connections that we have there, because Oxitec tried to release an olive fly in Spain, and they were turned away because of safety concerns, public health concerns, and environmental concerns. So Oxitec is just striking out all over, and they finally see a little window of opportunity here in the Keys, and we're not having it. And they're not giving up because they have so much invested now. And if they don't get this pushed through now, then they're probably, hopefully, going to either do a deeper level of scientific assessment and research and safety process, or they'll go out of business. And it's not that I'm hoping that they go out of business. Certainly I'm sure they have a lot to contribute, and I say that in the nicest possible way. But certainly there's
just not this way. Yeah.
Their level of science on this technology is junk science.
Right. So Les has a question. Scientists must ask corporations for permission before publishing independent research on genetically modified crops, protecting intellectual property. Would this also apply to GM mosquitoes?
Anytime you have a patented life form, it's tricky business. Again, I don't feel that we have the regulatory framework in place. In fact, I would like to now highlight a couple of very educated advocates on this issue. Jennifer Kuzma and Natalie Kopfler are one is a Harvard geneticist. They're going to be presenting at the Isla Mirada Village Council meeting this Thursday, March 18th. And it'll be an online village council meeting. They will be presenting, and basically they'll be focusing on their concerns. They're not necessarily opposed to GMOs, but they will be very clear about why they have concerns about this kind of an experiment. They co-authored a newspaper article, which maybe you've read, from the Boston Globe, and about how before genetically modified mosquitoes are released, we need a better EPA. They're going to be presenting at the Isla Morada Village Council meeting online this Thursday night.
And where will that be posted? Do you have a Facebook page, or will it be on your website? How can people see that if they're interested?
Well, we'll be sharing, again, like these wonderful partners that we have. GMO Free Florida, GMO Free USA will be posting on social media, on Facebook. Certainly, we invite everyone to share this information. Our Florida Keys Environmental Coalition Facebook page. Barry Ray has been our executive director ongoing since the formation of the coalition in 2010. He will be sharing it widely on different social media pages, and we'll definitely keep you updated as well, and moms across America. So please let us know how best we can share that information with your team.
Okay, great. Well, we can add it to our Facebook page so we can post it there. And is there anything else that you want to add before we complete with this? Anybody have any other questions? Let me check the question page here. People are saying, thank you very much for raising awareness about this issue. They want to get involved. And this is another experiment gone wrong, of course. Yeah, I wish you could say more about, at some point, people can research how, when it was released in other countries, it did not go well. So we could just sum it up. You mentioned that earlier. They were not effective. They didn't get rid of the mosquito populations. It seems sort of ridiculous that they would continue to push it. But as you said, they have millions and millions of dollars invested in this. And at this point, it's just sort of like they have an obligation to make their shareholders money, and there's probably pride involved as well in there, right? And trying to get in the door. So,
right. And a lot of people aren't reading international news about mosquitoes. So, why would you read the Cayman Compass, about an Oxitec experiment on mosquitoes over there? There's a pandemic going on. There are so many things going on in all of our lives. So what happens, unfortunately, is these regulators rely on the claims of the vendor.
Right.
And the vendor is saying, oh, we've been great. We've been so successful in all these countries. We're amazing. And that's just simply not accurate. That's
right.
not.
So there was a comment on Facebook about mosquitoes, as pesky as they are necessary in the environment. We have many, many animals rely on them as a food source. And I don't think that's been addressed by them whatsoever. Everybody just thinks they're pests.
Do you know how many animals rely on mosquitoes as a food source?
I don't know exactly how many, but we've got amphibians who rely on the larvae. We've got birds and bats and
fish. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think it depends on the region and the types of species you have in any given region, but certainly dragonflies, birds, fish, amphibians.
Oh, I get very excited when I see a lot of dragonflies.
Me too.
Yeah. So Katie asked,
why don't we could release a lot of dragonflies and kill a lot of mosquitoes too, couldn't we?
There you go.
And they wouldn't have to be genetically modified, right?
Yeah, actually, in Europe, in some countries in Europe, they just decided to build bat houses and to have more bats come in, and because a bat can eat 1,000 mosquitoes in an evening, and they're completely. Some people claim rabies, but when you look at the numbers of rabies cases, it's like 3, it's just very, very few rabies cases. So, there's just all kinds of fear that's generated. And I remember my vector control place that I went to in the vector control department in Orange County, they had these big signs up saying how mosquitoes were the most dangerous species on the planet because they can travel so far and spread diseases. So somebody asked here that mosquitoes can carry disease. It seems as if no one no one knows if these could be super disease carrier spreaders. Can you speak to that? We know they carry malaria, right? Could they, if they're strengthened by this GMO manipulation, become super spreaders?
That's one of our questions.
Right. Yeah. So to sum it up, let me see if there's anybody else's. Somebody's wondering about the seminal opinion on this. they be a strong alliance in the fight against this. And the Seminole, those are indigenous people, right?
Sorry. Yeah, there are some concerns also about the neighborhoods that are being targeted and the demographics of vulnerable populations that could be impacted by this. The elderly, pregnant women, people with disabilities, school children, different ethnicities. So, there's just, the studies haven't been done. And we like information, we like science, we want those studies to be conducted. We haven't even gotten a cost comparison study. So even the people who aren't interested in the science, but they want to just know how much it's going to cost, they should be upset too, because honestly, no cost comparison studies have been conducted, and the spraying will continue. Just because they want to release these genetically modified mosquitoes doesn't mean they're going to stop spraying. The spraying of chemicals will continue. So this is not as earth-friendly and eco-friendly.
And that's the issue that we should be focusing on, is spraying toxic poison all over our neighborhoods. And yeah, my sister lives there. She complains of it, and they have health issues. And I am extremely disturbed by this. So Kim was raising her hand. Kim, you had a question?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay,
great. Megan, I have like a couple questions actually. So I don't know if I can just rapid fire them to you. You can
Sure.
answer them. Is it my understanding that Oxitec has no peer-reviewed research studies to verify that the GMO mosquitoes are safe or effective? Is it just Oxitec's reports?
It's Oxitec's reports. That's a really good question. It's all Oxitec and collaborators. I think I mentioned that earlier, the term collaborators. There's nothing objective about the term collaborators. So when Oxitec brings forth their data and their subjective data from their subjective collaborators, there's no third-party peer-reviewed science that's coming forward.
That's what I thought. The other thing that I've been hearing about is that they haven't tested for antibiotic resistance.
Correct.
For tetracycline specifically. Correct.
Wow. And what happens is apparently the mosquitoes cannot thrive unless there's some kind of tetracycline or, yeah, that's the article. Right, they're supposed to die as long as there's no tetracycline in the environment. And depending on how familiar you are with Florida, we have a lot of citrus farms, citrus groves. And you may not be aware of this, but the citrus farms are now utilizing widespread antibiotic spraying applications on the citrus groves to prevent certain types of disease. So that means there's oxytetracycline in the environment all over the state of Florida. And I'm sure the wind doesn't blow that down to the Florida Keys. I'm sure that won't bother us. That'll be fine. Yeah, that hasn't been checked out at all. Nobody's really done any science on that.
And one of the reasons why I'm sure that they have to spray this, what did you say, tetracycline, some type of antibiotic, is because they've been using glyphosate for over a decade now in citrus groves. We found it in orange juice, and glyphosate is a patented antibiotic. So you're developing antibiotic resistance by using an antibiotic. So then you've got to use different antibiotics, right? So it's just, it is a toxic treadmill of chemical cocktails. And the answer to all of this is regenerative organic agriculture, which would actually harbor the pests that eat the mosquitoes, right? It would eliminate the need for any type of chemicals and fertilizers and all of that. And the oranges would be healthier. They would have more nutrition. The trees would be healthier, and there would be life. They call them pollinator borders. We had a great regenerative ag farmer on last week. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in a minute. And those pollinator borders harbor things like beetles and insects that eat the other insects. And we just have to work with Mother Nature, folks. We got to stop messing with life forms, leave them alone, and And if you wonder why, why we're so adamant about this, just take 4 minutes to watch the movie Wolves Change Rivers on YouTube and see what one species, what the, the removal, man messing with an environment, then what the removal of one species can do to an entire environment in Yellowstone. It is an extraordinary short film, and everybody should see that, and it should be shown in schools as well. So, so let's see.
I just got the chills from you saying that.
Oh, thank you. Did you have one more question?
I actually, yeah, if I could, because
okay, go ahead.
I'm super frustrated. I actually live in the Keys, and I've tried to attend the webinars, and they're extremely difficult to get onto, and they cherry pick the questions that they're going to answer. So my questions that would have been to them, I guess I'm kind of asking Meagan that maybe she can kind of clear up a few things. I'm hearing that the fluorescent marker that they're using on the mosquitoes, if that's how they track them, that doesn't last. So what better way to not have any accountability if they can't even follow where they're going or what's happened to them if it fades? Do you know anything about the fluorescent, the markers, Meagan?
I don't have any information on that.
I had heard that, and I just wasn't sure what the situation was on that, because that was a concern. That's how they're allegedly keeping track of everything. And I'm hearing that maybe that doesn't last. And then what else? I mean, I came in like 15 minutes late to the meeting, so I hope I'm not repeating anything that was already covered. But what is actually in the genetic modification? I'm also hearing that it's Ebola, it's E. coli and herpes and red coral. Is that what they're using? Do you know?
Kim, these were DNA strands or sequences from E. coli, herpes, E. coli bacteria, herpes virus, and I think it was coral, red cabbage. So Derek Nemo, formerly of Oxitec, disclosed this information to me in one-on-one question and answer. We hosted several public workshops, and we invited Oxitec to engage with the public. This is years ago, before the pandemic, and this information was disclosed to us, and it is documented in scientific journals. So recently, I have to tell you this story if we have a minute. Mm-hmm. So I went to the health food store and organic cafe in Marathon Key recently, and I wanted to see if they had any staff or customers who would like information or signs. And there was a person in line who identified himself and introduced himself as the U.S. Director of Operations for Oxitec.
Oh, great.
And he was adamant that, oh, our mosquitoes do not carry herpes. That's absolutely not true. Well, then why is it in the scientific literature that it is in your mosquitoes? So right. It's very disturbing, because what Oxitec says and what the third-party evidence says are two completely different things over and over and over again. So you have this pattern of purposeful, willful misrepresentations of their product to the public, to regulators, and to elected officials at all relevant times.
I'm just hitting a wall with, trying to reach anybody or ask any questions with that. And then, like my biggest question would be, how do I opt out? And evidently
there's no way to opt out. Right. Exactly. And that's why we're fighting this.
Well, and she was saying one of the calls to actions is to go to your city commissioner. You can go to your vector control. I mean, really what's needed is citizen education, activism, and lobbying, just sitting down with them, having conversation with them, bringing in some of the science one by one. That's what it's going to take. It really is. But the good news is that one conversation can turn it all around. And, bringing in the studies where it didn't work in Brazil, it didn't work in India, it didn't work in, what was the other Cayman Islands, right? It didn't work in other places. And you got really, folks, it's like you taking on being the one to say this shall not happen here because of me, right? Because I'm going to do something about it. You may not be the only one.
Right.
You may not be the only one, but you're not going to wait for somebody else to do something about it. Sorry.
Genie's out of the bottle. They're not going to recall it. They're not going to be able to recall it.
Yeah. And so let's make it clear. The only way that you have to control this is to not allow it to be released.
Exactly.
There's no controlling it after that.
It's a permanent change in the environment.
Absolutely.
It's an absolute, there's no way to rescind this. You can't go mangrove to mangrove or house to house and start plucking mosquitoes out of thin air and just say, oh, well, we've made it better now. Oh, sorry, we made a mistake. Oops. Yeah, we overlooked that. And that's why they're calling it an experiment. They're not saying that, hey, we know this works and it's great. Well, they are saying that, but it's still an experiment. So
right, they're calling it the mosquito project, the mosquito project.
Right.
So I just want to say, if you want to find out more, please go to the Coalition Against GMO Mosquitoes, stopgmm.com. And I want to thank you much, Meagan, for being with us. I'm sorry, I know we could talk about it more, but I do have a couple other issues to get to before we close out tonight. Thank you very much, Meagan. I appreciate it so much.
One closing comment. I was able to get glyphosate banned in the city of Key West in 2019.
Yay! That's awesome. Good for you. You're the one that did it in Key West. I remember it was a while ago. I was like, wow, they did it. They were successful. Thank you so much. That is so wonderful. Well, there's so many cities and towns, and Miami and Los Angeles and Portland and hundreds, we lost count at hundreds of cities and towns and school districts that have banned glyphosate and other toxic chemicals, right? They're taking an organic priority. And that is so important because, again, that allows those animals to thrive like birds that would be eating the mosquitoes, folks, right? I can't tell you how many dead birds I saw along the road in my hometown, a small town in Connecticut, after they sprayed Roundup all over the town. It killed the birds. So then what's going to happen? You're going to have more mosquitoes, folks, and so when there's runoff from Roundup into the ponds, the frogs that eat the mosquitoes are not going to be there, right? So we have to stop killing things. We have to just stop declaring war on bugs and pests. And that's a good segue to my next conversation, which I'm really excited to share with you. Thank you again, Meagan. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for your attention on this important issue.
I appreciate it so much. And we wish you the best of luck too in stopping that in Florida. And we'll do whatever we can. Let us know about sharing that. So I just want to share that we've posted an article on our blog for those of you who are with us for our fantastic last week's Moms Connect call with Mark Dudla. We're announcing a nationwide health share of regenerative organic food. And this is the Dudla Farms CSA Health Share Program, in which you can get regeneratively grown organic produce. Beans and products, beans and flowers. And sometimes they even have honey. They're going to have CBD pretty soon. I don't think the CBD is not included in the share, but they grow it on their farm. And you will be able to get these products that are all regeneratively grown. That's a crimping tractor. They're pushing down the crop and using it like mulch instead of spraying with glyphosate, instead of tilling, all of that. And that has the soil be it adds more organic matter to the soil. It protects the soil. It helps the soil absorb more water, and it helps the soil it fosters more carbon sequestration into the soil. And so not only are you purchasing food that is not GMO, has not been sprayed with glyphosate and other toxic chemicals, it's healthier for you, it's healthier for the soil, it's healthier for all the wildlife and the insects and nature around the area. It's healthier for the farmers. Mark Dudla lost his father, unfortunately, due to the toxic chemicals. It's also better for the planet because it sequesters carbon and can help reverse climate change. So this is a win-win-win all the way around. And they've announced that there's a CSA program in which you can purchase 15 products in the 3-month supply for $15. And you can purchase it in 2 ways. You can either log on and pay $75 every 3 months and pay a $15 shipping charge. Or, okay, I guess they changed it, you know, or you can buy bulk. You can just buy single items bulk. And I believe they may eventually have a $300 one where you can pay for the whole year, you know, like you would with a regular CSA with produce. But I don't see that on here now. So I have to talk with them. Maybe they're going to do that later. But you pay $75 and there's only $15 in shipping. That's a $23 saving in shipping. You can pay a lot of money in shipping. So they're willing to eat some of the cost of that. And you can also order bulk 25 pounds at a time. And what this does is it supports this regenerative organic farming family to be able to keep the farm in the family, because, you know, so many farms are going out of business these days. And we simply cannot allow that when farmers are doing, you know, such good things, and they're not buying into the Monsanto's rhetoric of feeding the world by using toxic chemicals. They are actually healing the world, and they're healing the planet by using regenerative organic agriculture. That's what this is about. And so we really are very excited to partner with them to promote and share about this health solution. This really is our motto, you know, is to create, I mean, our mission is to create healthy communities, and this is a solution for creating healthy communities. Plus they're giving back 1% of all sales to moms across America, which is extraordinary. It's like the 1% for the planet. But we would be sharing about them as a solution, whether they were doing that or not. I want to be clear about that because we just love what they're doing. So please check out their website. It's doodlafarms.com, and you can go to that one. There's an area where it says, I don't know, it says products or shop. Sorry. And do we have the link on the website? I guess, or if you could just click right on here. So you can go straight to, it's barntodoor.com is the.
Yeah, it's on this at the bottom.
It's on the bottom. Yeah. Okay.
You talk about the bulk ordering.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just clicked on that. So you can see, oh yeah. So here's the $75 health share bundle featured by moms across America. And here's all the different types of flowers they have. I've tried these flowers. They're so good. And
I just got my order from them. It came super quick.
Oh, it did. Oh yeah. Cause you just ordered it last week. That's so great. I've had, great. I got they have the 5 bean. They sold out of the 25-pound bag of black beans. I'm going to order the 5-pound. The cranberry beans are so delicious as well. Oh my gosh, they're selling out. Okay, so you guys got to order fast. I guess people are finding out about it. They have flax seeds and cornmeal and yeah, a lot of really good products. Okay, so thank you very much to Doodla Farms for the partnership on that. I want to mention, because it's springtime, we're moving on to a new topic, that that people are looking at using flea and tick collars and flea and tick medications. And we really want to warn you that thousands of pets have, pet owners have reported that their pets' deaths. And this was a flea collar called Seresto that is being named. And did you say that this had been recalled or not?
My friend had sent me a notification that it was recalled last week. And I remember looking it up and notifying you, but then when I looked today, I couldn't find anything on it. So I'm not sure. I don't know whether Bayer was able to have anything like that taken down. I don't know.
Right. Okay. Well, if it wasn't recalled, it should be recalled. And it looks like the Biden-Harris administration they're saying that, you know, they're going to take this more seriously, but, you know, taking it seriously means having it taken off the market, not just talking about it.
Well, and you had your issues with other flea and tick.
Yeah. So I wanted to mention that NextGuard, look up, did NextGuard kill my dog on Facebook? Because I wish I had done that. I think there's 14,000 the last time I checked, pet owners that believe that NextGuard killed their dog. I was told, I brought my dog to the vet. I tried everything natural that I could get my hands on. Maybe I didn't do it consistently enough. I don't know. But she had a horrible case. I mean, just the flea, she had an allergic reaction to the fleas. So she had, you know, flaky, scaly, like everything all over her body. And so I finally brought her to the vet, and they said, this is the most innocuous one, you know, the least toxic, you know, harmful one that you can take. It's a pill, it's a one-time thing. And they really had me believe that it was safe. And within a couple of weeks, she had all these, she was urinating all over the place and she was having problems. I took her in and they said, oh, she has some kind of pancreas issue. And no, it has nothing to do with the medication. She ate too much turkey at Thanksgiving, you know, which happened to be 2 weeks before. And so her pancreas has problems. And then within a couple of weeks, I think it was in 2 weeks, she died. And, you know, I just cannot believe that once again, I trusted, you know, a veterinary or a medical doctor. It seems like every time I've gone to a Western medical doctor or somebody who listens to Big Pharma, my family has been injured, right? Or my pet or my family has been injured. And I'm really trying hard to be open-minded that there's, you know, good people and good solutions out there. I mean, clearly I know surgery saved my father at least once or twice. But the medications, I have to say, have serious side effects. And if you don't look into, you don't just Google any type of medication or flea medication or any product that you're putting in your mouth before you take it, you are possibly setting yourself up for life-threatening side effects. Like I'm just begging everybody, please just look it up. Look up the ingredients.
Well, listen
look
to
up
the
side effects.
The commercials are all, every side effect of every pharmaceutical on TV says death could be in part of it.
Yes. Yeah. And yet our vets and doctors ignore that stuff. And they say, oh, it's safe because that's what they're being told by the reps. So here's another one, Sentry. There was she wanted to protect this woman in North Carolina, where I live now, wanted to protect her dog from fleas and ticks. And it was a tick squeeze on for dogs. Sergeant's Gold flea and tick squeeze on for dogs. So it's like a little dab, right? A little like drop, I think, right behind they put their neck. And within hours, they had severe burns. They had, it looks like seizures and foaming at the mouth. And, you know, this woman had vet fees that were over $200, drained her bank account, and she ended up being evicted. I mean, these are, you know, serious repercussions from these flea and tick products. So, and I don't claim to have the solutions because, like I said, I tried diatomaceous earth. I tried different essential oils. I tried different shampoos and, soaps and things like that for my dog. Perhaps I didn't try them consistently enough. And so I guess that's the only thing I could suggest to people is to try more consistently. One thing I did find out in the process of learning about all this is that a lot of people are getting organic dog foods, and depending on the makeup of the dog food, the dog food can make the skin of the animal quite sweet. And I believe it's if it has I don't know if it's too many grains or if it's the opposite, the grain-free dog food. But I would just suggest that you look into that a little bit. You may need to switch your dog's, you know, or pets, your cat's food, because that could change the way the skin is attracting the fleas. Putting in yeast into their dog food can repel fleas. And let's see, I don't think I did try borax. No, maybe I did try borax. I tried everything, but
what about have you tried Wondercide? Because that was something that was mentioned. I was going to do some more research on that.
Wondercide. I know I've heard of it. I don't know if I tried it at that time. So yeah, so people are saying borax, mule, team. Let's see. I'm just looking at what other people are suggesting. There's a lot of suggestions out there, but do look for, yeah, here's the website. Does NexGard kill dogs? I'll just show you the page. And yeah, I miss my dog. so much. And I felt so horrible afterwards because I'm the one that gave her, you know, the medication, and I didn't know better. I felt so stupid. You know, I was so embarrassed and ashamed and horrible and missed her and just felt horrible about it for so long. And I just wish that other people do not have that experience, you know. So look at this. We do not sell this items. There's somebody that's actually showing NexGard and Frontline and Advocate and Simparica, all these different products that they do not sell because they can be harmful. So yeah, please look for other solutions. Oh no, here's a dog that was giving NexGard. Now he can barely walk. That's what happened to my dog. She couldn't walk just before she died. And yeah, I can't take it. My heart hurts. Especially small dogs. You know, bigger dogs may not have as much, like this one has severe diarrhea, but small dogs, they're going to most likely have a much more severe reaction. So, okay, so sorry to talk about such a sad issue as we're closing up. Let's see if there was anything else.
Well, it's that time of year, so everybody's going to be ordering this stuff.
Yes. Oh, okay. So one other issue. I don't have the page open right now. I just have 3 pages on flea and tick collars. I think I closed the other page. But I just want to mention some other news that came out today, and I did a little piece on a TikTok, which is that this Supreme Court just ruled on Thursday, 7-2, to eliminate our right to get the information that we ask for from our federal agencies, the FDA, the CDC, the EPA, all of them. If you go to their website, you can do a Freedom of Information Act. It's like a letter. You can request information that they have on, you know, scientific studies or data. For instance, I asked them for all the information that they had, that they based their decision to approve glyphosate. And I had never heard of anybody doing that before. I didn't know that that was a thing, that you could do it. But when I went to the EPA and they said, this was after we found glyphosate in breast milk, right? And 10,000 moms called the EPA in 3 days. And they said, you know, rather than having our phones ring off the hook and stopping us from doing our jobs, maybe it would be best to meet with some principal members and do that. So we did that. It happened to be Rachel Carson's birthday. It was awesome. And in the meeting, they said, well, you know, we have hundreds of studies showing that glyphosate is safe and it's not harmful. And I said, well, I'm pretty sure not on humans you don't. And they said, no, that's because that's not ethical to test on humans. And I said, well, if it's not ethical to test pesticides on humans, how is it ethical to allow it in our food, in our water, and in our breast milk? You have to stop it. You have to stop this now. You are poisoning babies. And they all looked at me like, because I was scolding them. I was so mad. But then I thought, well, I haven't seen these hundreds of studies to show that glyphosate is safe. What are they? So I asked them and they said, well, you can actually go through this process. You do a Freedom of Information Act, and that takes 6 months, right? And so you eventually get information, and then they don't give you enough. So you got to request again, and that takes another couple of months and another couple of months. And sometimes sometimes you have to sue. But now this new Supreme Court ruling has made it that you can't even sue legally. If they don't give you the information that you want to get, they can claim that it was part of a deliberative process, and information that they use during the deliberative process to make a final decision does not need to be shared with the public.
Well, it's all redacted. Remember when you got that report back?
Yeah, so I did. Yeah, I did do a Freedom of Information Act later on to the CDC and the FDA about finding glyphosate in vaccines, because gelatin is a stabilizing agent used in most vaccines, or maybe even all of them. I don't know. But we found glyphosate in all of the 5 childhood vaccines tested. Yes, and that's because the gelatin comes from pigs or cattle that eats GMO grains, which have thousands of parts per billion of glyphosate on them. It goes into their tendons. This has been proven to go into their tendons. The tendons are ground up, made into gelatin. The gelatin goes into the vaccine. In addition, there are other ingredients in the vaccine that are GMO, and 80% of GMOs are engineered to withstand glyphosate. So there could be other ways that the glyphosate's getting into the vaccine through those other things like corn or soy or bovine serum or chicken whatever, parts and eggs and things like that, right? So yeah, we found glyphosate in vaccines, and we told the FDA and the CDC and asked them to test further and to make them safe. And they did not respond favorably, of course. And a year later, we did the Freedom of Information Act because we wanted to know, well, did they do anything about it, right? Did they do any testing? Did they research it further? And we got back about 150 pages, and over 50% of them, I'd say closer to 60% of those pages were completely redacted. They were blocked out. Yeah. And so, when I asked them why, they said, well, because those conversations were part of the deliberative process, and we do not have to share that with you. And I talked to a lawyer, and he said, well, we could sue, but apparently now you can't. So they've made it so that if you were to sue, they were just to say, no, that's the law. It's the law of the land. You don't get to have access to information. So this is extremely disturbing, folks. This is clearly not an act of a democracy. This is an act of a corporatocracy. So we must not kid ourselves that having somebody in office that is, it is appointing judges or in office. I don't want to get political here, but just because somebody's not a lifetime politician and is a businessman doesn't mean they're going to have this be a democracy. They're clearly, in favor of giving more favors right now to corporations than they are in favor of ruling for the safety of the people. So we really have to be careful about who's in office and who are made federal judges. Yes, the precautionary tale, I read that a long time ago. I interviewed the author. He was brilliant. He was at Precautionary Tale as a man in, was it France or Italy, Frankie? Small town where they grew apples and spraying tons and tons of chemicals. And he fought to have the spraying stopped. A small town in Europe, and it's all about the local level. Very good story. Italy, okay. Very good story, and I have that book somewhere. So yeah, we can make a difference. We can do something about this. We just need to be unstoppable. That's why my book is Unstoppable. And partially, I think I named it that because there's been so many times that I've wanted to give up that a lot of times the only way that I kept going was because I put myself in a position where I kind of had to keep going, right? If you put yourself in a position of leadership or of accountability, if you're a part of a group, if you're the head of something, if you're an author or a podcast person or a blogger, right? You got to keep going. You just got to keep going. People are expecting for you to do that, or hoping for you to do that, or in partnership with you to do that. So, so you've got to keep going. And so, yeah, Biden's a lifetime politician. Yes, absolutely. And my point was, it doesn't matter whether somebody's a lifetime politician or a businessman and they're, president. Are they going to make decisions based on what's good for the people or what's good for corporations, right? I don't care what party somebody is from. My whole thing that I was doing before there were even primaries was, please, let's vote for somebody that doesn't take money from corporations. That's the only way we're going to get somebody in office that's making decisions based on what's good for us, not on the for the corporations. And I don't know if that's going to be an independent or a Green Party person. I don't know. But for me, that's the only way. We have to get money out of politics. Absolutely, Carla. We have to get money out of politics. And I don't care what party they're from. They just need to be from making decisions based on what's good for people, not profit of corporations.
And then our agencies won't be captured.
Yeah. And the agencies need to stop taking money from those corporations, right? It needs to, right now, the EPA gets about 33% of the salaries are paid for by the corporations. And, I don't think it should be that way, whether it's a tax and it's just, I don't know, all lumped in together and then given it, I don't know how it should be, but it shouldn't be that they're paying fees and they're paying people. I mean, the EPA guy literally said, my job is to approve these chemicals and assess what level is the most harmful to humans and, animals and all kinds. I said, no. Your job is not to approve chemicals. Your job as the EPA, it's the Environmental Protection Agency. Your job is to protect humans and animals from the chemicals. And he looked at me kind of like, well, you know what I mean. And I'm like, no, you know what I mean. I was like, this is your job. You need to do your job. And, you know, I have to say,
I don't know what the current rate is, but the members of the CDC at last count owned patents on over 60 vaccines. So people are relying on the CDC for information. It's nuts.
Yeah, well, that's a whole nother issue, but it's the same thing with approval of GMOs and pesticides and chemicals. You know, the governor of Florida, right? Your last governor of Florida, his wife owned stock in from what I understand, in one of the NALED spraying, right? The mosquito spraying companies. So yeah, we've got to have impartiality. We've got to have more objective leaders. And so that's why I was wondering if you would run for office, Meagan, because we need people in there that don't have the ability, that don't have the thinking of being bought out, right? That think more, put people first instead of the profits of the corporations. So I don't know, just think about it. We need people like you in office.
I'll move to Florida just so I can vote for you.
Oh, that's so good. Don't kid yourself. You want to get out of Wisconsin and the snow too. You want a year-round.
Snowing right now, by the way.
You want a year-round growing season. Let's be real. All right. Well, I appreciate everybody for being on the call. I know we jumped sort of around with sort of way different topics tonight, but that's how it goes. Sometimes there are so many different factors that are impacting our children, our families, our pets, our loved ones. And the big umbrella, folks, is corruption from corporations. It's these corporations that are poisoning our government and our democracy and our communities and our local politicians. And the answer is to connect with them, to speak with them, to educate them, and to not give up. And I want to thank you, Meagan, for being an example of that. For 10 years working on GMO mosquitoes. You are a local hero, you and your team. I'm sure you're very humble. You would not say it was you yourself, but this is an example of the type of leadership that we need in our communities. And thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you. And I can't say enough. It's a team. We're stronger together.
Absolutely. Yeah. So keep working together with your local teams. And if you feel alone, reach out, find people, connect with people on Facebook, on, Meetup, on different social media apps, and say, hey, can we, get together or talk about this or get on a Zoom call and strategize and plan? Because if you decide that you're going to stop this, or you're going to make a difference, or you're going to transform this situation, you have much bigger chance of making that happen than if you don't decide that, right? If you don't choose to do it. It's just all it takes. You may not do everything that you want to get done. You may not, but you sure as hell aren't going to get anything done if you don't say, I'm the one that's going to do something about this, right? Nothing's going to happen if you don't do that. So just do it. Say, I'm the one. I'm going to do this. I'm going to take this on and take it one step at a time. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Great to see you. Take care. Have a great night. Good night.